Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Build with Lucas. And today I'm going to walk you through something that I've been planning for a while now, which is that I'm migrating my entire community, no code buffs, off of Bubble and rebuilding it into full code. So before you think I'm crazy, just stick around to the end of the video. I think I've built a very strong case with 5 actual reasons why I am making the switch right now. And look, I've built over 15 apps on Bubble. I'm a certified developer. My agency runs on top of Bubble. So this isn't me hating on the platform. But things have changed a lot recently, and I want to be honest with you about why I'm making this move and exactly how I plan to do it. So first, for those who don't know, what the heck is no-code buffs? Let me quickly explain to you what we're actually talking about here. So no-code buffs is a community that I've built primarily for no-code builders, freelancers, solopreneurs, and so on, and I built it in the beginning of 2025. And we currently have about 80 members, and the platform has a bunch of cool features. So it has a community feed, resources library, messaging, leaderboard, and so on. A bunch of features that other community platforms like School and Circle has. So the entire community was built on Bubble, and honestly, has served me well for a long time. But as the platform grew, I started running into some limitations, and I have also been thinking a lot about the future, right? So I really want to build something that is future proof. And so I have convinced myself that going into full code is the best decision for me right now. So why am I actually making the move now? Before I break it down to you, let's take a look at what No Code Buffs currently has. So this here is No Code Buffs. This is the core of the community, which is the community feed. So you can introduce yourself, you have general questions, and so on, right? So you can post your questions, you have images, documents, comments. This is an actual working community. So we have the leaderboard, members, profile, chat, resources, and I actually built the community on the back end, but I've never launched. And the academy itself is one of the main reasons why I'm actually considering going to full code as well. So let's go back to the slides and actually talk about why I'm making this move. I have 5 different reasons, the fourth one being probably the most important of all of them, so stick around until then. And the first one is money, right? So let's start with money because that's real for every one of us. So the bubble pricing model works fine when we're building a small MVP, but once you have a community with active users, real-time data, and file storage, the bill starts climbing. And to be honest with you, that's not my case right now. We only have 80 members, but I'm planning for the future. When I compare what I'm paying now versus what it would actually cost me to run a community using Supabase in Brazil, the difference is massive. We're talking about going from, $32 a month to nearly free on the infrastructure side. But the cost alone wouldn't really make me switch from Bubble, right? So the second reason is something that every Bubble developer has felt. And we're talking about performance, right? So if you have ever used Bubble apps, you know that feeling, that slight delay when you change pages and the spinner that hangs a little too long on repeating loops. And honestly, it's not terrible, but it really impacts the user experience. And as your database grows, the queries also get a lot slower. I don't want my community members to sit there and say, oh, this database query is not optimized. They're just going to stop using the platform. And I don't want to lose my web developer credibility over platform limitation. So full code actually gives me control of every millisecond of that experience. And that is really important to me. And that brings me to something a little bit deeper. The question, who actually owns what you've built? This one is a little bit more philosophical, but it really matters, right? Because when you're building in Bubble, you cannot export your app as code and you cannot move to another host. So if Bubble decides to change their pricing tomorrow or deprecate a feature that you really depend on, you just have to deal with it, right? So moving to full code means that I own every line of code, every table in my database, and every deployment decision. So that peace of mind and being future proof is worth the effort, in my opinion. So now everything I just said has been true for years, and every Bubble developer knows this. But why am I actually making the move now and not a few months ago? And it's because of this. Yeah, you guessed it right. It's AI, right? AI has changed the game. No wonder why everyone's talking about this on YouTube and everywhere else, right? AI is the biggest reason because the main argument for Bubble was always speed. You could build faster without writing a single line of code. And that was true until a few months ago, right? AI has changed the equation completely. And I built Quality of Forms, for example, a full SaaS product in just 5 days using Claude Code and Antigravity. So that's a lot faster than what I could ever have done it in Bubble. And the result is a real code base that I fully own and a real solid product. Now, with these new AI assisted tools, if you have an idea of how to build the applications and you can describe the best infrastructure, you can actually build a product there. And that's really the fundamental shift here. And it makes the speed argument for no code a lot weaker. And the last reason, this one's a bit personal, but if you are a developer or if you own a web development agency, this one might also apply to you. So my agency is primarily building web development applications in Bubble. And don't get me wrong, I'm still going to be using Bubble. Bubble has its great use cases, especially for MVPs. But I also want to evolve my agency services in my career towards AI assisted full code development. I'm going after these projects, especially on Upwork, and I want to position myself differently in the market. But I can't credibly tell all my clients I build production apps in AI and code if my own community is still running on Bubble. Whereas I have plenty of Bubble apps to show my clients that I know how to build on Bubble. So this migration is the proof of concept for everything that I'm selling. I'm also going to use this build live sessions with you to teach how to use these tools. And in the process, I'm also going to learn a lot about these tools and how to build actual applications there, right? I think I've built a lot of applications there already. I have some experience, but we're constantly learning. And so I think clients would win, people watching me on YouTube would win, and I would also win. So this is also the reason why I think it's a great time to do this transition. All right, so those are the main reasons. So let me talk a little bit about the No Code Buffs brand as well. So I've been thinking a lot about this, especially because the name No Code Buffs is familiar to the current users, but I also think that this migration is a good moment to rebrand. So No Code Buffs has been a name since the day one, and it made perfect sense when the community was purely about no code builders. But if I'm moving to full code and teaching AI assisted development, if the whole point of this channel is that the line between no code and code is disappearing, then having no code in the name actually holds me back. So we're becoming buff stack. The buff part carries over because it's about being strong, it's about being skilled and leveling up as a builder. And stack actually represents the full technology stack that we're now working with. It doesn't matter if we're using Bubble, Next.js, Supabase, Claude Code, Antigravity, or all of them together. Buff Stack is a home for builders, and that's it. And unlike No Code Buffs, it's a name that won't expire when the industry shifts again. It's future-proof. So, all right, we have a new name, we have a new code base. So let me show you exactly what we're building with now. All right, so my plan is to use Next.js on the front end because it's flexible and it plays beautifully with Supabase. It's also very good for SEO, right? So on top of my YouTube videos, which will drive people to the community, in the long term, I also want to have my community SEO optimized so people doing web searches, for example, can also find the community. So Supabase will handle authentication, the Postgres database, file storage, and the real-time subscriptions for things like messaging. And Claude Code and Antigravity primarily will essentially be my development partners throughout this whole process. So this stack is modern, it's affordable, and it gives me full control of what I'm building. So with this stack in mind, here's the actual migration plan. I've broken down the migration into 6 main modules. So the first module will be the auth system, the onboarding, and the profile. And then we get to build the community feed, resources, messaging, leaderboard, and so on. So each module gets rebuilt as its own piece. And my plan is to document the whole process here in this channel. So I'm not trying to replicate exactly what I had in Bubble, but I'm going to use it as references, right? Because I have a lot of things that I have validated with the current Bubble MVP, and I could simply replicate in the new application. But we are not limited by what Bubble can do now. So I might just add some extra features. Now, honestly, I don't want to overcomplicate this. I want to build the simplest version so I can onboard the users and then keep building on top of it. I think by now you've understood that I'm not trying to trash on Bubble, but let me be real with you about Bubble for a second. Now, look, I still think that building an MVP, or if you're validating an idea, Bubble is a great tool. And it gives you a lot of features out of the box, right? Especially security. If you're building full code, you have to think about security. You have to think about SEO. You have to think about authentication. These are things that Bubble honestly just gives us. Now, with that being said, this migration is going to take a little bit longer than I think it will because building things always does, right? So my plan is to run both platforms in parallel so members don't lose access to anything during this transition. And look, I know that the risk is there, but the upside and cost savings, perform ownership of the code, and actually building something that's future proof will be worth it to me. So here's what happens next. I'm actually going to document this entire migration in the channel. Like I said, I plan to create a series for live building. So you can see me setting up the project, actually creating the features and deploying the. So you get to see an app building from scratch using these AI assisted tools and not just telling you and explaining you the platforms and how to do one feature, how to do the next. You're going to see the whole process. So with that being said, if you want to follow along, subscribe to the channel so you get notifications when a new video is up. And I highly suggest you join the community right now as it is, because it's being rebuilt in real time and you will be part of this process, right? So join No Code Buffs down below and I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching.